Bulldogs fans, all things Bulldogs, round 25, last round for our doggies of this year, and hopefully we can end on a winning note or a good performance, hopefully a win. I think we all really want to win, of course everyone does, but don't worry, whatever happens today has no relevance on next year at all, believe me, no relevance whatsoever. Just helps us feel a bit more excited about next year. Now, there's a couple of things to talk about. Halfbacks, current halfbacks that we've got, the ones that they're looking at that are in the market. News on Jackson Tapine, first news we've had, which is positive. Obviously, a lot of players not being re-signed. It'll be their last hurrah. In first grade, some will play in reserve grade as long as we stay in that competition. Some interesting stuff, some news on Luke Thompson, so let's get to it. So the halfback situation. Now, I don't want to criticise the club. Obviously, it's business. You've got to find the right players. Kyle Flanagan is a player that's not really suited by the fast game because he lacks a little bit of speed. He's a smart player. He's good defensively. You know, I have no doubt if he was playing in the 80s, he would have, the way he played would have suited a coach like Warren Ryan or something. Like, he's that type of player, but he needs to, he just doesn't have that explosive speed that you need from halfbacks these days. So moving forward, they're looking at Jaden Sullivan, Ben Hunt. Jock Madden was mentioned, although it's looking like Madden will become the backup half for the Panthers, which I think is a good move for him. I'd actually prefer him over Jaden Sullivan. I think he'd be cheaper, and we've seen a bit more of him, and I don't mind what I see with little Jock. But there you go. But the one thing we've got to highlight is, you know, the media have mentioned Flanagan, but no one's talked about Bailey Biondo-Odo, which our fans have. From looking at social media sites, it appears family and friends close to Bailey that have spoken up seem to be in the dark. So obviously that would bring some angst and some anxiety and assumption that maybe he's not wanted beyond next year. So that would suggest to me that Bailey hasn't had any communication with the coach, and I have no idea, complete speculation on my point, but one would think that with him signed for next year that they just expect him to turn up and business as usual and put his best foot forward and try and take an opportunity if one comes up. Now, it hasn't come up because of our improved form, and with Flanagan doing a job there, he has improved, no doubt about it, but does he have that quality and speed and ability to take us to the next level? I don't think so. That's why an experienced half is a necessity for our club if we want to win premierships, if we want to be a force at finals time or to even make finals. Ben Hunt fits that bill. Yes, he will be 34 in 2024. Yes, he would have played 300 games. But considering he was used, I feel, for too long on the bench, he's had relatively few injuries, and his versatility has meant that he's played Origin and you know, he's having a really good season this year. Unfortunately, he just hasn't had the depth in the spine around him and consistent forward play in the team that he's been in to make finals. And yes, you know, I think the reason the Dragons haven't made finals isn't because of Ben Hunt. But it's all going to come down to the cost. I think that Gus Gould would be talking about his career post-rugby league. What's he going to do? It seems very Bulldogs-like to target a player like that. We had Ricky Stewart, who come and was a mentor for Brent Sherwin. We know how well Sherwin did, leading us to a premiership. We had a really good season in 99, much better than 98, but it just fell short against the Storm when we should have won that game. Still haunted by it. The Dogs brought in Brett Kamali in order to mentor the team, and we went from wooden spooners to a prelim, I'm pretty sure, in 2009, and quite easily could have been playing a grand final. The Parramatta momentum was too big on the Hayne train on that year, and then they fell short against the salary cap cheaters in the Storm. So moving right along, it makes sense to have, we need an experienced representative halfback to leave some shoes for young and up and coming talent to fill. So to me, if it's a Ben Hunt and we keep Bailey Biondo and then bring through another junior, Bailey Hayward is there, who's going to need a couple more years, especially defensively, to grow. That's the type of succession plan that's required. To bring in a Jaden Sullivan, to me, is just spending more money on and going in on a halfback, which it's like doing the Kyle Flanagan thing all over again. Although Kyle had that sort of season where he was leading point scorer and was doing quite well in that Roosters side. But they made a call on him. They probably saw that he was at his potential, but you know, with a good side behind him, he was all right at controlling things. But they just wanted more strike, I think, and they saw Sam Walker coming through. So it was just a case that they made room. But out of Jaden Sullivan, are we getting a future immortal? Are we getting a future grand final winner? Are we getting some? Is he just better than what we've got at the moment? Is that the case? But if he's going to cost, you know, in the money that I'm hearing, the $500,000 and all that sort of stuff, or more, is it worth it? You know, shouldn't Bailey Biondo be given that chance? That's what I think. But it's a big decision for them to make. I would have thought a Jock Madden would have been a better buy because he would have been cheaper, and he looks like he just could be better than what we've got. Jaden obviously is a big talent. He's got big raps, and hopefully if they do pick him, he comes in and does the job with a more experienced Burton, with the more experience in the hooker position with Marnie. And Marnie's ability to control and create is really, really good. He's also another 40-20 option. So there's lots of options there. Now we've got the Josh Reynolds situation. 12 weeks train and trial. Seems like a no-brainer. But it doesn't sit well with me that if a young player misses out on a contract for Josh. For me, if a currently contracted player where it's not working out moves on and there's a spot, I sort of don't mind if it's next year. But Josh Reynolds, DNA, Bulldog DNA, loves the Dogs. As a mentor for the players, for motivation, I think he's good. And from that point, and commercially, I think it's a good idea to have him around the club. Just like I would like to see Shifty Sherwin and all those around the club. But it's all going to come down to Cameron Serrato and what he thinks. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, Jackson Tapine has been the strong mail that he will be extended for another 2 years with the Bulldogs, and I think the fans, that'll be one for the fans. Has had a lot of people comment on it, and I'm sure that's got back to the likes of John Curry. It's not looking good for the likes of Matt Dory, who had that injury when he was starting to play, and it's still going to take him another 12 months to get ready. I really like Matt Dory, but with the depth of, it seems they have recruited a lot of back rowers. Jacob Preston's coming to the side. And it's really hard for us fans to gauge a lot of the reserve grade talent that Gus will bring to the club, because especially if they haven't played first grade. They brought Josh Cook. That seems to be on ice at the moment. Players that haven't played much first grade or any are always a risk, but when they come from teams which have been entrenched in the top 4 and top 8 for numbers of years, with strong first grade squads, and they just don't get an opportunity, if they're just in a position where they just don't get an opportunity, it's sort of, they have to go to a club on a build to get that opportunity. And sometimes it turns out good, and sometimes it doesn't turn out at all. But that's for us to find out. 150 games for the Fox, Josh Addo-Carr, Raymond Fatala-Mariner and Jeremy Marshall-King on 100 games this week. So lots to play for. Manly's attack, as far as the halves go, and their hooker, they are quite fluent in what they do. So if it's all going to be about the forwards. If our forwards can win that ruck, we can beat Manly and beat them easily. But if the Manly forwards get on top, Manly will put points on us, whether we run out of puff or whatever, that's what'll happen, because they've got that halves combination, which is won grand finals together. It doesn't forget how to attack, and you watch it. They still, Kieran Foran will be straightening up that attack, and he'll be digging into that line, and our wingers will be forced to make choices, and if they make the wrong choices, which is easy to do, they're going to score points. So it's all going to come down to those forwards, and they get an opportunity against a Manly side which is weakened in its forward pack, no doubt about it. So yes, it's a really big weekend. New South Wales Cup. It doesn't look like Makatoa or Siu Manafanai. Siu Manafanai suffered a hip drop, it seemed, and I'm not sure if Makatoa was injured. Looks like Josh Cook isn't playing. Haven't heard anything about that. So young Clark from Flegg's come up in hooker. He scored 4 tries in Flegg a couple of weeks ago. He could be the backup option that they're looking at next year for Reid Marnie, who will always be in contention for a hooking spot for Queensland. Simply, you can never trust that Harry Grant will not be injured. He's had so many injuries, the guy, at the start of his career. But interesting times ahead. It's been a much improved season. I know it's only 6 wins and there's been a couple of disappointing losses and that sort of stuff, but comparatively speaking, 7 from our last 25 games, and potentially 8 from our last 26 games, compared to 5 from the previous 49, is just a much better effort. It's 100% better. And the fact that we're in, 80 to 85% of those matches where, with even luck and a couple of better choices or whatever, we could have won those games. Losses to the Broncos, bad calls in that game, bad calls against Manly, lost by a point. We could have won a handful more games this year, but last year, the 3 games we won, there's probably only 1 or 2 other games where we look like even a chance of winning. So it's definitely a much improved performance. We're going to finish 13th or 14th. And hopefully this is the launching pad for us to then, take the next step. Hopefully to be like a Broncos or a Cowboys next year and take that next step. I know Broncos fans will be, I so hope they don't make the finals. I'd rather see the Raiders there. And I look at the Raiders team and think they're a very beatable side, you know what I mean? So, if they can make the 8, that means that we're a possibility next year based on what's coming. But we're going to lose a bit of forward strength, so other forwards are going to have to step up. Interesting to see the developments with signings and for November and all that sort of thing. But I think it's been a much more enjoyable season than previously, although we've had our hope dashed numerous times, and we want to see premierships. We want to get back into finals. We want to be there, with fans looking at us, tipping us to win games, and thinking that our team's playing the Bulldogs this week, shit, and that's a loss coming up for us. That's what we want again. We want that fear factor to come back, the dogs of war. And we've got the right fabric around the club, so I think we can do that. Anyway, guys, thanks for the chat. I've enjoyed it. Thanks for the lovely comments and the subscriptions and all that sort of stuff. There hasn't been too many trolls out there, which is good, but thank you to them as well, because it all counts as another view. Apparently that's what it's all about, how many views you get. So my daughter tells me. Alright guys, I'm going to do some player profiles leading into next year, and hopefully you hear some other voices on it as well. Maybe looking at a podcast type situation, just investigating the parameters of that. But thanks a lot guys, and go the doggies, smash those Sea Eagles.